So how many of you were fans or are still fans of Gucci Pour Homme 2, this fragrance right here? Sadly, this is discontinued, just like Gucci Pour Homme 1, which has been discontinued for a lot longer than Gucci Pour Homme 2. But many of you were asking me for alternatives of Gucci Pour Homme 2. A fragrance featuring tea, some spices like cinnamon, and violet leaf. So it's a cozy, ozonic, spicy experience for me. For me, it was kind of a very relaxed wear. It was not anything that was loud. It was just a very, very perfect balance. Just enough, or just the right amount of, you know, perfume or fragrance in a fragrance you can wear. So I like that about this one, but sadly it is discontinued. You can't buy it anymore. If you can, they're going to be priced high. So today, I thought since you guys were asking me for alternatives of Gucci Pour Homme 2, I thought I'd put together a video of 10 different alternatives. And today, I'm not giving you alternatives that are identical. I can't find any fragrances that are identical to Gucci Pour Homme 2, but I feel like the alternatives here can come close in some ways and or use one or two of the other notes that are in this fragrance to kind of act like the fragrance itself, Gucci Pour Homme 2. So if you're curious to learn about the 10 alternatives to Gucci Pour Homme 2, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews, and we are talking about Gucci Pour Homme 2 alternatives. This got discontinued probably last year, or maybe the year before. It's not easy to find anymore. I bought my bottle for about $80 some, and at one time Sephora was carrying this fragrance, and they stopped. Maybe it was even Saks Fifth Avenue, but the fragrance was launched in 2009, and it is really hard to get now. And this has some followers, like it has fans. There are fans of this fragrance. That's why a lot of you have been messaging me or asking me via email, and a few on Instagram if there are alternatives to Gucci Pour Homme 2. So today I thought, you know what, let's do this video for you. And I went through my collection, and some fragrances in general did remind me of this fragrance because of the violet leaf note, because of the tea note, maybe a little bit of the cinnamony note, but not a lot. But again, these fragrances are not identical. I don't have an identical replacement or a clone or something that smells really, really close to this fragrance. But there are alternatives that focus on the tea note, that focus on the violet leaves note. Also, there are fragrances that are just, to me, smell like the fragrance, just a different version of the fragrance. So I'll tell you what they are. But before we get to it, if this is your first time tuning into my channel and you still haven't subscribed, please click the subscribe button below, and also click the bell so you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. So this did come out in 2009. It is now discontinued. I was surprised that it kept, you know, staying around as long as it did, because Gucci Pour Homme 1 got discontinued quite fast. In fact, I think by the time I got into doing this around 2011, 2012 on the old channel, I think it was already discontinued, Gucci Pour Homme 1. But Gucci Pour Homme 2 lingered on and stayed with us probably for about 10 years if it came out in 2009. I think it's 2009. I could be wrong. It could be either 2007 or 2009. So, but sadly it's gone, and it does feature black tea. There's the violet leaf note. It's very, very ozonic to me. It acts ozonic. The violet leaves note has like a watery, aquatic water more than marine, kind of an ozonic quality to the fragrance, with spices like cinnamon. There's a little bit of a tobacco note, but not a lot. It's a very, very calm. It's a calm, cozy fragrance for me as a designer fragrance, and I felt like, even though it has some of these more masculine notes, the tea in here kind of made it a very unisex offering from Gucci. There's musk and there's some bergamot, so in the end, it's a fragrance that's very cozy with some light, spicy touches running throughout it, and the tobacco, of course, which was not obviously really prominent. So sadly it's gone, but I'll tell you what my alternatives are. I've got 10 of them. As I said, we're going to start off with a fragrance from the house of Gallivant. It's Berlin. So here, what's going on with Gallivant's Berlin is that they have black tea, which is prominent in this fragrance right here, Gucci Pour Homme 2. But for me, they're fusing it with, it's a fusion with Vetiver. So they're like meshing it with the Vetiver note. In the end, I feel like it sort of acts like Gucci Pour Homme 2, but the experience for me, violet leaves in here are so prominent, and there's no violet leaves here. There's that kind of jelly-like consistency running throughout it, almost gelatinous running throughout this fragrance, which this one doesn't have. And this fragrance itself goes dry, like it's a drier experience than this one, which is a warm and soft and slightly buttery, you know, wearing experience. That's why I find it to be cozy. Whereas this one, still very, very aromatic and dry and earthy, with the fact that it has the black tea with vetiver. In the end, this one also has grapefruit, clementine, lemons, black pepper, some cedar and patchouli. It's not an identical, you know, like it's not like a truly identical copy of it or an alternative of it, but if you like the idea of black tea with vetiver, you might like this particular fragrance as an alternative to Gucci Pour Homme 2. So check this one out if you can. Next, we're going to the house of NISHANE. We got Wulang Cha here. So I'm giving you a few options of tea fragrances. I'm going to give you a few options of violet leaves ozonic fragrances, and I'm going to give you some additional options that I feel like can be alternatives. With Wulang Cha, a great tea fragrance. When I put my nose to this fragrance and when I put my nose to this, they're not identical, right? But obviously when I smell this one, I smell the tea, and when I smell this one, I smell tea with the ozonic touches of the violet leaves. So in the end, this one has lots of floral touches, and this one does not have any floral touches to me. But what we're doing is we're giving you an alternative of a tea fragrance. But you know, I feel like it is a great alternative with Nishane's Wulang Cha, because in the end it's tea, a tea fragrance that goes in a different direction. It doesn't go into the ozonic direction, but it goes into kind of an aromatic, woody, citrusy direction, which can be a great alternative. This is a great fragrance. There are these slight fruity touches under there. I feel like there's a beautiful jasmine note in here. Lots of citruses of bergamot orange, mandarin orange, musk, and you know, additional floral touches that I feel like come in. But the experience here is a little on the dry side. The tea is a dry tea, but I think it's a great alternative if you're looking to replace this one, even though it's not identical. Again, it's tea, both of them are tea, and this makes for a great alternative, I think, for Gucci Pour Homme 2. This would be a great alternative for Gucci Pour Homme 2. In the end, it's using one of the notes that are prominent in Gucci Pour Homme 2. It's Creed's Green Irish Tweed. So this is a very ozonic experience. There's a watery aquatic touch running throughout it, and it's from the violet leaves note. Do they smell alike? No, they don't smell identical at all, but when you smell them out of the bottle, you can totally pick up the violet leaves in here, and then the violet leaves in here. Again, violet leaves to me acts very gelatinous, like there's a gummy, jelly-like experience when I'm wearing it. Here it's totally prominent, here it's totally prominent, but they go in different directions. But if you like that quality or the experience in Gucci Pour Homme 2, you might like it in here. If you've never tried this, obviously you should get a sample and try it. But this one's all about violet leaves with sandalwood. There's the ambergris, and here lemon verbena is prominent as well. And then, of course, there's also lemons and peppermint and some iris notes. So there's some powdery touches, but in the end, it's a green experience and very ozonic. Again, they go in different directions, but I feel like the overlapping notes are very prominent in both of them, which are the violet leaves. So that's Green Irish Tweed. Another one that I feel like can come similarly close to smelling like Gucci Pour Homme 2 is Sedley. But we got completely different notes in here. There are more aromatic notes in this one, but I feel like the overall wearing experience is more like Gucci Pour Homme 2. But as far as smells go, they're completely different smells. But this one I like it as it's a very soft and buttery kind of a wearing experience with the notes, with lots of mint, lavender, there's some ambroxan, lemon, cashmere, and bergamot, vetiver, grapefruit, rosemary, and sandalwood. So when I read the notes, it doesn't, it seems like it won't be kind of like the soft, gentle, kind of a cozy, freshy, but it acts that way, especially since it has ambroxan and cashmere. But even though they're not identical fragrances, the experience or the vibe of the fragrances are definitely here for me, as they don't smell alike, but they're definitely similar. So that is Sedley from the house of Parfums de Marly. Let me know if you've tried them. Have you compared those two fragrances together? And if so, what do you think? Or any of the other ones that I've offered to you you so far. What do you think? So this one might be a bit of an oddball, but you know what? I've always thought that these two fragrances reminded me of one another. It reminds me of Gucci Pour Homme 2, but this particular one that I'm going to recommend now is a lot sweeter, and it changes directions once you're wearing it. The fragrance I'm talking about is CH Men. It's much sweeter because this is all about sugar. This is sweet. It has a sweetness, but for some reason I feel like this, when I wear it in comparison to this, it's the sweeter version of this minus the ozonic violet leaves notes that's in here. With this one, it's lots of sugar, leather, vanilla, violet, green grass, and bergamot. It's a great scent, a great fragrance that you know, it wasn't a love at first sniff for me. It grew on me, and I really like it. Sometimes I crave the sugary coziness of this fragrance, even though it kind of dries down to a leather. I really like that whole sugary blast at the top. That's why I feel like it's a cozy leather fragrance in the end, and it kind of reminds me of this particular fragrance, Gucci Pour Homme 2. They don't smell too much alike. They just remind me of one another, and I feel like it's a great alternative to Gucci Pour Homme 2. Let me know if you know this fragrance. Let me know if you've compared it to Gucci Pour Homme 2. My bottle is leaking for some odd reason, so I had to undo this, but anyway, might have pressed on it. So that's a great alternative. Another great alternative is Himalaya. Now, they're not identical smells, but I feel like they kind of go into that ozonic aquatic direction, very musky with the Himalaya. So this one's all about musk, ambergris, sandalwood, bergamot, grapefruit, lemon, cedar, vetiver. There's no tea in the notes, and I thought about putting Silver Mountain water in here, but to me they don't smell alike at all in comparison to this one. And there's no ozonic aquatic touches with Silver Mountain water, so I left that one off. But for me, I feel like Himalaya is even closer to smelling like this. And here, right after this one, going back to this Metal Rain, which I reviewed a few days ago. So Metal Rain to me does have green tea in the notes, plus it has the violet leaves. So they are more close to one another, even though they go in different directions, because the ozonic notes are in here. Violet leaves, which are ozonic, or have an ozonic quality to them, are in here. Plus you've got the green tea, there's some cashmerean, basil, black currant, musk note, and then sandalwood. The only thing that I feel like they're not similar here is the sweetness. I feel like this is a little sweeter than this one, even though this has sweet touches. It kind of goes in a different direction. It almost feels like there's a little bit of a melon experience, like the melons I'm getting from Millésime Imperial. But in general, I feel like this is a great alternative because it has the violet leaf ozonic touches with the green tea. Anyway, those are some additional fragrances that I think are perfect for Gucci Pour Homme 2. So I keep talking about violet leaves being ozonic. I do have a video on the channel focusing on violet leaves. If you like the idea of this particular note, it's present in a lot of masculine fragrances. Go check out that video. Just type in violet leaves on the channel and you'll find out more fragrances. But this is one of the fragrances that was featured in that video. It's LALIQUE Hommage à la Homme, which focuses on lots of violet leaves along with the violet flower. So in the end, these might be a little closer to smelling like one another, but it doesn't have the sweetness of this one. This one seems a little more bitter. But still, that violet leafy kind of jelly-like gelatinous quality, soft and pudgy kind of quality that violet leaves has when you're wearing it, almost like the inside of aloe vera. There's this like jelly-like consistency. The wearing experience is similar with these fragrances. But anyway, I feel like this can be a great alternative, LALIQUE Hommage à la Homme, for Gucci Pour Homme 2 because of that very ozonic quality of the violet leaves that's very, very prominent here. There's also some black pepper, and this has some spices. There's pimento in here. There's some pimento, but this one has black pepper. There's some saffron, bergamot, tonka beans, labdanum. I keep saying labdanum now, not labdanum, which I do enjoy saying. But this is a great, great scent. LALIQUE House produces some awesome, awesome fragrances, and I feel like this is a great alternative for this particular fragrance, Gucci Pour Homme 2. If you're seeking out something that you feel like is missing in your collection because you don't have any more of this left, do check this one out. Again, they're not identical, but the violet leaf note comes really close to the violet leaf note in here. In fact, I feel like this is a little bit more of a potent fragrance in comparison to to this one, which I felt like all along was very, very subtle. It's not a very big fragrance. Anyway, that is LALIQUE's Hommage à la Homme. So this is a kind of a more of an oddball one that I'm throwing in here. This is PENHALIGON'S Opus 1970, which I find similar to here. They're not sharing similar notes whatsoever, but the combination of the fragrance notes in here smells a little bit like this, but to me this smells a little bit of a more black pepperier version of this one. Just open up the bottles and smell them. They smell very, very close, but they're not very close. They're close, but not very, very close. But they're just like reminding me of one another. But in the end, this one's focusing on. This is Opus 1870. Did I say 1970? It's 1870. So this one focuses on, this one features Yuzu, black pepper, cedar, sandalwood, coriander, incense, cinnamon, rose, and musk. It's a very, very classy, gentlemanly fragrance, and it has a kind of a tea-like quality, even though there's no mention of tea. And I feel like the notes that they're using in here, the combination, creates this kind of like an accord that is very tea-like to me, but a spicy tea with black pepper. The only thing I don't get in here is the ozonic touches of the violet leaves, but there's maybe a little bit of a light touch of that in here to begin with in the end. So I think this is a great alternative. I think even though they're not identical, I feel like it does come close to smelling like Gucci Pour Homme 2. And the last fragrance I'm going to talk to you about is just another oddball fragrance here. It's more about a tea fragrance. It focuses on tea, especially since this has black tea in the notes. This is Kierin's Sunday Brunch. Now, the reason I'm adding this one in here is because it smells like a very, very cozy, comfortable tea fragrance featuring or focusing on Earl Grey tea. But it's a nice meshing of the tea note with lemons, bergamot, and some floral touch of jasmine. It's a great cozy experience. It's more tea, less or hardly any violet leaf ozonic qualities. But in the end, if you like the tea part about this fragrance, minus the ozonic touches from the violet leaves, this might be a great alternative fragrance for you to try in place of the Gucci Pour Homme 2. If you've been seeking or trying to find this one and it's not available because it is expensive now, and I have this much left, obviously, as you can see, then all these fragrances would be a great alternatives for you. I think what you should do is, if you're looking to replace this fragrance, get some samples or sample them in stores to see what they smell like before you act on a full bottle. Again, as I'm saying, these fragrances are alternatives, not clones, not inspired by. They're just basically fragrances that I think you can wear instead of this particular fragrance now that it's no longer available, it's discontinued. Again, I'm suggesting these fragrances. I highly recommend you sample them first before you get bottles, because noses are different. I smell things differently than you will. You might pick out other notes out of fragrances and think they're not at all similar, and vice versa. So I highly recommend sampling them prior to you know, buying full bottles. But if you have the budget and you don't mind buying a fragrance that's not going to smell like something you like, then obviously go for that. But I just always advise that you get samples to test out prior to jumping on a full bottle. Anyway, those are my alternatives for Gucci Pour Homme 2. Let me know if you're fans of this fragrance. Let me know if you know of a place that sells them for inexpensively, because I know it's discontinued, and it doesn't even match any of the fragrances that Gucci has now anyway. Not created by Alberto Morillas, which the latest release is under what's his name? Alessandro Michele, I think his name is, the creative director of Gucci, is creating with Alberto Morillas. So this is, obviously, it had to get the axe and get discontinued, because obviously now it's completely different styles and things like that. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Gucci Pour Homme 2 and also its alternatives that I have for you. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. If you've ever compared these fragrances that I suggested today to Gucci Pour Homme 2, also let me know. And if you have the bottles now and you're comparing them, also do let me know. And if you have other alternatives to Gucci Pour Homme 2, do let me know that as well. Put a comment down so I can find out. Thanks so much for watching. Please do like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.